Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine heirs. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. We are the sovereign living justices in capitis diminution nullo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am sovereign living justice Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminution nullo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free chosen sovereign appellation is like Tajiri Bay in capitis diminution nullo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American descendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, ancient empire state of Morocco. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the Universal, Article 3, Moorish American Consular Court. We are peace, we are one nation, we are one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. Okay. So our subject matter today, before we get into it really quickly, I want to remind you about our national fast. It's a 3-day fast that we're going to be doing at the full moon, which is the 15th, 16th, and 17th. The full moon is on the 16th, and we want to harness the ancient energy of the full moon. So the fast will be either water fast or it will be however you choose to do the fast over that time period. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Some do it sun up to sundown. Others do it, water only and the whole 3 days. And so however you're led to do it, you can even fast from negative energy. You can fast from meat. You can fast from sweets. You can fast from whatever you choose to fast from. We're just going to go ahead and make sure that during that time period that we continue together in unity with regard to everything that has to do with us. Okay? So we know that as we move into access to the vast estate, discipline is going to be key. The nations that are always in the right place with regard to everything that has to do with us are nations that are disciplined. So we have to be, we're working on that. We're not perfect by any means, but we're moving in that direction. So and then I want to read one thing with regard to our national strategy as we go into this demonstration that we're going to be doing today. Our national strategy has everything to do with nation first, state first, government first, and law first. So I want to read to you really quickly, it's not very long, what our national strategy is, because sometimes that way we can manage our expectation with regard to all the things that we're doing, all of the demonstrations that we're doing. This is our national strategy. It's found in Exodus, the 23rd chapter of the ancient Holy Sibyl, which we know that the Bibliothek, or some people call it the Bible, was written actually by the ancient Sibyl. And the Vatican is actually ancient Timbuktu. But it's been hypothecated, and so we are putting it back in its proper place, okay? But this is our national strategy. It says, see, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. And these are our ancestors speaking, okay? It says, my angel will go ahead of you and bring you into your land, the land for the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will wipe the occupiers out. Do not bow down before their gods, or worship them, or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the law, for you are gods, and blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive those pretending to be the Hivites, the Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of your land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I will give into your hands the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. So that's our national strategy. It is to take it step by step, and that's what we're doing today, taking another step in the direction of taking full control and access and possession of everything that's on our land. So with that being said, we want to give notice, okay, that because right now what we're doing is laying the groundwork for our entire banking system. The groundwork and the foundation has been laid since time immemorial, and all we're doing is uncovering it and accessing it, okay? So sovereign banking is very different from conventional banking in that sovereign banking is far more specifically customized, personal, tailor-made, high quality, and high level than conventional banking. Conventional banking is made for the masses, which is more like an assembly line style of banking with small lines and fees, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to uplift fallen banking as well, okay? Sovereign banking is like having a one-of-a-kind meal catered at your domicile by a high-end, award-winning cordon bleu sous chef versus a fast food meal. The difference is that these two are not ordered in the same manner, nor prepared or presented in the same manner, nor do they taste the same. So when we say that we speak by affidavit, this is very different from going into the teller and requesting him or her to please help, which generally will be denied based on our sovereign status simply because we don't bank that way. And the ones that go into the banks and, you know, have these extended dialogues with these people, they're going to treat you like the average Joe walking in off the street. But when you speak from a court, your court, and all Moors are the court, and you're speaking competently, knowing that they are subject to you, That's a different type of banking altogether, and that is actually how sovereign nations bank. We are introducing the uplifting of fallen banking and merchant processes so that the economy starts back up again for us in our favor, as stated by our prophet Noble Drew Ali. So the first thing we want to do in introducing these merchant cards is we want to put the law in place that states our sovereign right regarding the banking system in relation to our national natural resources. And secondly, we want to define clearly merchant banking and merchant cards, which overarches commerce, although they work together. And thirdly, we will provide basic erudition on the systemic principles for our merchant bank cards and its numbering system. Okay. So let's see. Number one, let's put the law in place with regard to the merchant cards and all that we're doing with regard to gold-backed sovereign banking and gold-backed money and the instruments that we use. So do we have the right to do this? And in fact, is it our responsibility to do it? Yes, it is. So when people say, well, what makes you all so special that you can do sovereign gold-backed banking? It's actually the law, and we're not supposed to bank any other way, really. And we're in transition, so we're moving out of the old banking. So, you know, some are still banking the old way and moving into the new way. Others are just about fully into the new way of banking. And then there are those who have still have to wake up to new banking. And that's what we're doing. So the rights of sovereign states, nations, and governments concerning natural wealth and natural resources can be found all over the law. But we're going to pull up really quickly, I'll just quote it, the United Nations General Resolution 1803, Article 17. It says, it provides that the states and international organizations shall strictly and conscientiously respect the sovereignty of peoples and nations over their natural wealth and resources in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations and the principles contained in the resolution. These principles are set out in 8 articles concerning inter alia the exploration, development, and disposition of natural resources, nationalization and expropriation, foreign investments, the sharing of profits, and other related issues. Now, we know that the United Nations that we have been seeing in the news and everything, we know that that's corporate and they don't have, we're not subject to anything that has to do with that. However, they have put a model out there that we can cherry pick from because we're the original United Nations, okay? So what we're doing is doing as our prophet said, and the Europeans would be left here long enough to teach us how to govern, so we're just looking at the written word and then elevating them to be the law for us with regard to our banking and our merchant cards and all that we do. We're not, random rogue all out there. We're looking at the law, we're looking at the system and implementing it and moving forward in that manner because that is what is supposed to happen. Okay? Yes, I will open the call. This one. Okay, it's unmarked. They can come in. It's mine. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the committee that adopted and published this resolution that we just read with regard to sovereign nations having control over their natural wealth and resources, that committee contained the following corporations. Okay, and again, we're not subject to corporations. We're just looking at what they're doing and implementing the law with regard to our resources. But I wanted to pull this up to show you who knows about the sovereignty of us and our nations and our natural wealth and resources. Afghanistan, Chile, Guatemala, the Netherlands, the Philippines, Sweden, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which is, some are calling that Russia, the United Arab Republic, the United States of America as subject to the Moorish Empire state. Okay, so these have always known about sovereign status and who we are. They've always known. And so they put these things out there, and our job is to research it, to look at it, to look for it, and then to implement whatever it is that we need to implement. All right. Thank you. So for those who want to take a look at this resolution that I just read, I'm going to put the link to it in the chat so that you can look it up in your, whenever you have time to do so. Okay. Just 1 minute. I believe the link is in the chat. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay, so the link is in the chat for those who want to take a look at that resolution and add it to your documents, add it to your affidavit, so that as we do these demonstrations and demonstrate our sovereign status and our cards and the things that we're doing, that we have plenty of information and, things that we can point to and say, this is the law, okay? Next, we can go to the Treaty for Peace and Friendship, 1786 and 1836. Article 4, with regard to merchants, and this is why we call it a merchant card instead of a commerce card. It says, a signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties by which they are to be known when they meet, and if the commander of a ship of either party shall have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination. In other words, when we take our cards out and we're doing merchant things, either on the land or on the high seas, no one has the authority to say, well, we need to take a look at that and look and see if this is valid or not. You don't have the authority to do that. No one has the authority to do that. Article 17, merchants shall not be compelled to buy or sell any kind of good, but such as they shall think proper, and may buy and sell all sorts of merchandise, but as are prohibited to the other nations. So we can buy and sell as we choose, and as long as the things that we're taking to the other nations is not prohibited in those nations, because there are some nations who prohibit some things. Like genetically modified things, we're not going to be dealing in that stuff. And so if any merchants come to us with genetically modified things, we have the right to say, nope, we don't take that here. Article 19, no vessel shall be detained in port on any pretense whatever, nor be obliged to take on board on any articles without the consent of the commander, who shall be at full liberty to agree for the freight of any goods he takes on board. Okay, and for those who may not be aware, what you're seeing on the screen is ancient English. It's not typos or anything like that. Our ancient English contains French, Spanish, German, Arabic, Aramaic. It contains words from all different languages, specifically Latin as well, because we spoke all of those languages first. So if you're a little bit OCD about the language, you can just listen and not watch the screen because the presentment is pretty much in ancient English. And we know language is jurisdictional. As well as when you look up the word nation in a dictionary, it's going to say that a nation is known by having its own economic life, its own language in common, and its own territory. That's the definition of nations, and we know that we're a nation as well. So Article 20 of the treaty, it says the Treaty for Peace and Friendship, 1786 and 1836. We did go ahead and rewrite the treaty and put it on the public record in this manner because the treaty, the treaty that was out there was a war treaty, and we are not at war. Some Moors say they're at war. We don't have anything to do with them being at war. We have chosen to be at peace because that is one of the 5 points of light, and so we're going to continue to be at peace. Article 20 of the treaty, if any of the citizens of the United States or any person under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the consul shall decide between the parties, and whenever the consul shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce her decisions, it shall be immediately granted to her. So again, it's by our courts that we do our commerce. And if there are any disputes, the consul decides the disputes at commerce. Okay. So that is why it was necessary before we introduced anything like banking and all of that, that we got our courts up and running, and they are up and running. Everything that we put out is a court action, including what we're doing now. These are all laws that we're putting in place together so that when we place these things on the public record, all who witness it know that this is the law for the Moors, okay, for all Moors who consent or assent. So although we're not at war, I did pull up the Congressional record. And this one is Congressional Record Volume 158, number 115, and this one was done in the Senate, and again, we're the Senate, so it was done in the office of the Senate, July 31st, 2012. And this is, I'll go ahead and put the link to this information in the chat as well, and it will be under these videos on when we put this video out on YouTube, so that you can see what we're basing what we're doing on. It's on the law. Everything that we do is law first, always. So the link to this is in the chat. It says, and this is George Washington and the Moroccan government, which is us, talking about the relations between the two. And again, this is war document right here, and we're at peace. I want to make that clear, but I still wanted to point you to this. It says here in the Congressional record, most importantly, the treaty provided, and they're talking about the treaty, this Treaty for Peace and Friendship, which is our treaty that we placed on the public record. It says, most importantly, the treaty provided for the protection of U.S. shipping vessels at a time when American merchant ships were at risk of harassment by various European warships. The treaty specifically stated, if any vessel belonging to the United States shall be in any of the ports of His Majesty's dominions or within gunshot of his fort, she shall be protected as much as possible, and no vessel whatever belonging either to Moorish or Christian powers with whom the United States may be at war shall be permitted to follow or engage her, as we now deem the citizens of America are good friends. What this is saying is, and again, they can't speak for sovereigns, so they can only speak from a citizen perspective. But it tells you here that when they're talking about vessels, Moors, listen carefully, they're talking about conveyances. They're talking about our modes of travel. Those are the vessels, because as you know, whenever Moorish vessels are stopped on the land, generally Moors can say, I'm not doing any commerce. Okay. However, and again, this is why our language is so important, and we'll show this later on, the difference between commerce and merchant vessels. Okay. Very key, very key. There is mention also in this same congressional record of our vast natural resources. Therefore, our merchant cards are in peaceful pursuance thereof. It states, a further indication of the early and close relationship between the United States and Morocco can be seen in a letter President George Washington wrote to Sultan Mohammed III on December 1st, 1789. President Washington wrote, it gives me pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring your majesty that I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and these, and they took out some words there. We'll see what those words are at a later date, but they're talking about us. It says, this young nation, just recovering from waste and desolation of long war, has not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture or commerce. But our soil is beautiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. So this is when, you know, they were the United States Corporation Company, which is what George Washington was the president of. Okay, and that was when they were coming here and looking at how beautiful our land is and all of the riches and the wealth that the merchants do, that the merchants have access to. And they were stating, you know, that that the recovery was in process. Okay. And they were recovering. In other words, they were putting a corporate covering over our resources. And we have removed the corporate covering that they put over it by way of our liens and court actions. And what we're doing now, today, and in the past with the presentment of the Moorish sovereign dolarium and our banking system, we are recovering our own natural resources and our ability to move freely on our land and on the high seas as merchants with regard to our resources. Okay, that's important. It's going to be very, very, very important as we move forward, because that determines a lot when it comes to the vast estate and this what some have been terming the largest transfer of wealth in history. It's not really a transfer. It's just us taking our rightful place among the affairs of men. So that is another place in the law that gives us the opportunity, or not the opportunity, but that can be used in our document to state that we have full authority over our own vast empire, over our commerce, our merchant behavior, our land, the riches acquired through agriculture and commerce. Okay. And then with regard to the cards, because we're going down the row, in looking at the different resources that we use to state that we have the authority to do what we're doing. The third, we're now looking at codes and statutes that we can attach to the treaty and attach to the Constitution. And I didn't put the Constitution for the United States in there, but let me put it there now. Because the Constitution for the United States, 1789 and 1791, states that, number one, that everything that we do is by appropriation in order to access the Treasury. And we've begun appropriating the resources on our land. Number 2, it states that debts are to be paid in lawful gold and silver coin. Okay, gold and silver coin. What is, well, when we look coin up in the dictionary, a coin is a sovereign, which is us. When you look that up in the older dictionaries, a coin is a sovereign. Okay. So the Constitution for the United States, 1789 and 1791. And here we'll go ahead and, since we are in control of our own capitalism, we'll go ahead and put that in blue. Okay. And then we can also now look into the codes and statutes and say, okay, we can pick some codes and statutes out of some of these rules and things that we've seen. That way we can elevate it and make it the law for us. So with regard to cards, there is a rule called, and this rule is earthwide. The only place that this rule was not widely published is the United States. And we know why it wasn't widely published here. It was not widely published here because the United States corporation companies, the dead ones, had some restrictions on everything, okay? But since we've leaned them, that corporate covering off of the United States, we know now that these things are starting to come to light. So the honor all cards rule, you can Google honor all cards rule, and you'll get things from the UK, you'll get things from Australia, you'll get things from Canada, Canaan land, you'll get things from the United States. And all of the card companies have the honor all cards rule. All of them do. So let me put this link in the chat as well. So that, yes, so that this is the one for MasterCard. And let me say this about MasterCard and about Visa and about all of these other card companies. All of them were started initially by our ancestors. How do we know this? Because no commerce was being done on this land without the approval of our ancestors, none of it. And so we did some research, and those of you who are familiar with the Moroccan American Exchange know that there are hundreds and hundreds of companies and company resources that we have access to, and that we can absolutely utilize those resources, but we have to put the law in place to utilize them, okay? And we have to use our courts to access them, which is what we're doing. MasterCard and Visa are part of that also. All of the other card companies, all of the banks that issue cards, all of that is resources for the Moors, but we have to produce our own and then put the law on it and enforce it, because they cannot tell sovereigns what to do, and they know that. So they create things for citizens, and then what do? They say, okay, Moors, all y'all have to do is look at what we did, clean it up, uncorrupt it, and you can use it. And they're not giving us permission to use it. That's just, we can, okay, because they use our resources to even create any of that stuff. And what I'm saying is always written in the codes and statutes of the companies and corporations, okay? It's written in there. So the link that I just put in the chat, we'll put it under this Islam. The link that I put in the chat, okay. The link that I put in the chat, you can read it because it's a lengthy document. We're going to take a look at the honor all cards rule for MasterCard. And as you know, over the years, MasterCard has you know, they had an all cap logo and all of that, and the logo that we see on their codes and statutes is in all lowercase letters. And for those who studied capitalism, you already know what that means. Capitalism, see our fiduciary document to know what capitalism is all about. Capitalism is the financial system that we did it first, and then it was handed off to the corporation, and now we have leaned that corporate covering off of the capitalism system, and now we're using our own capitalism, okay? But capitalism can only be utilized from a state and government perspective, okay? So let's just take a look really quickly at this. At this PDF here. And I'll share it on my screen. Yes, one moment. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, good. This is Frankie. You made it in. Okay. So, let me pull this document up on the screen, the honor all cards rule, because this is partially, and really what we're laying out is we're laying out what's going to be in the final affidavit that we send out to all of the card issuers, and they're not card issuers anymore. They are custodians in the office of the card issuers, and we'll show you that as well as we progress in this presentment and what that looks like. We need to show you the groundwork for the card, and then we'll show you how the card works, because it's important that we know the principles and apply the law to that as we move forth in all that we do, okay? So let me put this document on the screen. Okay. What we're looking at here is we just pulled up, and you can see here the logo is in all lowercase letters, MasterCard. This is rules. And again, we can take the rules from any place, anywhere, and elevate it to the status of a law that applies to our nation. What we want to show you is that we have the authority to create our own cards and then enforce our own cards, even according to these rules. And we're going to use these rules in our documentation. So let's go to the bottom of page 110 to look at the honor all cards rule. Mm. Okay. So here, merchant obligations, honor all cards. A merchant must honor all valid cards without discrimination when properly presented for payment. Okay. And we will again, you can look at this document and look through it to see that MasterCard is considered an issuer, or was considered an issuer, but the actual finance was coming from other places, other banks, and we know that we're the bank, okay? Even other banks such as MasterCard, Visa, and all of that, they were all using our credit because we kept signing things. And so now we're just really taking the place of the corporation in using our own autograph, okay? So it says here, a merchant must maintain a policy that does not discriminate among customers seeking to make purchases with a card. A merchant that does not deal with the public at large, for example, a private club, is considered to comply with this rule if it honors all valid and properly presented cards of cardholders that have purchasing privileges with the merchant, okay? And as merchants, we are the first approval of any card. So what we're doing here is setting up our own merchant cards first, and we're going to demonstrate them so that people will know when they come to us as merchants of the natural resources, they will know how to, we will know how to honor their cards as well, okay? So this is telling us here that without discrimination, without anything, all cards are to be honored. And when it says honor all cards, it does not just mean MasterCard, okay? It means all cards, period. In other words, all payment cards that are properly presented. And we know what the law is with regard to proper presentment of payment cards. Okay, so even while we were in our fleet, corporations a lot of times they wouldn't send anything but a document or a ledger, and with that ledger, things would be exchanged. Okay, so we're looking at that process and we're saying, okay, the only reason their ledger was honored was because it contained some of our signatures. They had to have at least one more signing something, okay, even if it was a janitor, and we talked about that in past videos. So we even have the authority to use we can put MasterCard on our cards if we chose to do that, except we would separate the words because we know we're the master. And we have the first lien on MasterCard. We have the first lien on Visa. We have they're indebted to us, and they know it, and we know it. So we can use anything that has to do with cards anywhere at any time. The key is going to be more notified, 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 and more notified. Before you go to use your card, you notify beforehand that this is what I'm going to use, and this is the form of payment. Here's the lien that says that you all are debtors to us, okay? So this is the way high-level banking is done. It's not done, and this is something that we're all going to have to get accustomed to because I don't know about you all, but I did not grow up with high-level banking. I grew up with poor people's banking, you know, where we would just go in and argue with the teller about, you know, some fee or something like that, whereas with what we're doing, again, we're not taxed. We have all of these. Okay. So with regard to, just one moment. Watch that. Just one moment. Okay, can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. So with regard to, again, thank you. Yes, so with regard to, again, our liens are one way.
Having trouble with the ambient technology tonight, Pauline?
What
is this about your, where's your delirium, Pauline? How come you're doing credit cards now? Why aren't you talking about your delirium?
Islam.
Islam. Just one moment. Okay. Can you hear me, Empress? I can hear you all.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Great. Okay. So
yeah, Pauline's having trouble with
again,
Albion technology tonight.
Hold on for just a moment. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So what we want to also show you here.
What the fuck is wrong with you, you dumb bitch? Pauline, what about your delirium? Why do you have to do credit cards now?
One moment. Hold on. Just one moment. There we go. All right. So
Forgive.
okay, I got you just this one. Thank you.
You people do realize Pauline has 3 warrants out for her.
Hold on for just a minute. Of course, they do not want this information to go out. Just a moment. There's a little bit of there's some noise coming from a couple of the lines. We'll go ahead and mute those lines. All right. So, again, and we apologize for the interruption or the distortion. I think we took care of it. So, with regard to, again, all of the companies of the merchants have an honor all cards rule. Okay. So let's take a look at another part of this. Hopefully that's good enough for you to see on the screen as well. So let's take a look at another part of this page with regard to Islam? Yes, Islam Empress.
Feedback. Yes, it looks great. Good size. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. So with regard to there's a part that specifically speaks to the United States. Okay, and again, we know we're the original United States, so all we have to do is put it in red and then put it in blue and make it the law, and it's the law. Okay, for us, we appropriate our estate at will. Okay, page. So let's go in this document to page 303 and 304. Just one moment. Here it is for specifically in the U.S. region, the rule on this subject as it applies to MasterCard acceptance is replaced with the following. And again, the United States had different rules because we were here and we were not awake. Okay. So it says merchants that choose to accept debit MasterCard cards must honor all valid debit MasterCard cards without discrimination when properly presented for payment. The card is presented for payment. The merchant must maintain a policy that does not discriminate among customers seeking to make purchases with a debit MasterCard. Now, if you'll notice when we read it before, it didn't use the word customers. This word customer, it's referring to those who the United States was acting in fiduciary capacity and had custody of the resources. That was before we did the fiduciary document and the liens and the court actions and all of that. Now, custody is in the hands of custodians who are subject to the Moors because we're competent to state how the resources should be used and how they should be delegated. And so we would send our affidavit to the custodian in the office of MasterCard and the custodian in the office of Visa, okay? Because we're the CEOs of Visa and MasterCard. We know that. And then it says here, all other MasterCard cards Merchants that choose to accept other MasterCard cards must honor all other MasterCard cards without discrimination when properly presented for payment. So again, we have the ultimate MasterCard because we are the master. We know that. And so when we put the treaty, the Constitution, and these rules and codes and statutes with our card and our Moorish ID, then and the lien, then the cards must be honored. Okay, but all of that is done before we arrive anywhere talking about using our cards. If you'll remember correctly, back in the 70s, and some of you don't remember this, many of you don't, but I remember, and I was just a baby then. But I do remember, especially in the early 80s, when people would take their cards to the store, and there was nothing electronic. Everything was manual. Okay, and as everything was manual, the vendor or the merchant would take the card, put it on this manual metal tool, and put carbon paper in it, slide this thing across the carbon paper and across the card, and then they would present that for payment, for credit at the bank. Right? Okay, that is the same thing that we're doing now, except we're going to let them know well in advance that we're coming. And this is my suggestion, Morris, as we continue, yes. And some places still do that. And now that many are not accepting the fiat anymore, they're only accepting cards, we can put this in the place of that. Because the equipment and everything is already there. We can even provide them with a printout of the card so that they have it for their records, okay? Because we're prepared, and all we're doing is saying we accept your commerce on our land. See, it's us that's doing the accepting, not them. They don't have a choice because it's the law. And gold-backed sovereign money is the law. And anything that we present and we autograph it is gold backed. It's lawful. Okay, with regard to negotiable instruments or any other types of monetary instruments. Okay, to include merchant cards. But we wanted to get the merchant card piece in place because after a while, the merchant card piece is going to go electronic. Okay, but we have to implement all of that. And actually, with the email system, we can make it electronic from the very beginning. Okay, we have our bank account statements in Gmail, in Google Documents and Google Sheets that we can send with a copy of the card, a copy of the lien, a copy of those 6 documents to include the fiduciary document. And we can say we're coming in for this or that, or send this or that. Because we don't even have to go in. We can have them send whatever it is that we need. Okay? So this is how sovereign banking is done. It's always been done this way, where there had to be verification, okay, of, just one moment, verification, and verification comes from us. It doesn't come from anyone else, okay? Verification comes from the heirs, the creditors. It says here on the screen as well, the merchant must maintain a policy that does not discriminate among customers. And again, we're not customers anymore because no one has custody of our stuff. We have custody of it. Now there are just some custodians. But when we thought we were customers, they were acting in corporate status as the lords over the resources. Okay, but they're not the lords over the resources. We are. We always have been, really. So it's time for us to implement sovereign banking. And it is going to take some changing in our thinking as to how banking is really done when you are worth 100 million in 1 second. And the next second, 500 million just because you said so. That kind of banking, because of the resources that backs everything that we do. We have the title to the land. We know all of that, and it's in the law. Okay, so we have to get accustomed to enforcing, and by enforcing, all we're doing is putting it forth, putting the law forth competently, stating who we are competently, and then giving the commands by way of court action. Okay, so now with regard to the cards, let's move forth as well. And it says here there are some other things that you can look at in here. Merchants that accept MasterCards may choose to accept debit MasterCards or other MasterCards only, or both debit and other MasterCards. And when they're saying other MasterCards, that includes any cards that the creditors create. And the ability to create cards is also in here. And now let's go to that part, because there is an issuer of cards process whereby those who issue cards can create the cards any way they want. They can use the logo and whatever, and put it. We would put ours in blue in all lowercase letters. We would put MasterCard in blue in all lowercase letters, or Visa or whatever. We would put it in all lowercase letters on our with our flag on there as well. Okay, because any banks can create the card. Any banks can do that. But when you're the sovereign creditors to all the nations at earth, because these resources are ours, then it has to be done in an orderly manner. So that, again, we have to control our own capitalism with regard to this. And we are in full control of that with the fiduciary document. So we get to determine how this is done, okay? And we're not doing anything that hasn't been done before, okay? So let's look further at, again, we have here on the screen, let's go back to our document on the screen as we're talking about issuers. Okay, issuers can design their own cards. Okay, we are a recorded issuer, and we posted out on social media just a few of the return receipts that we have gotten autographed or signed rather by the office of the Postmaster General, which is that's a custodian. We're the real Postmaster Generals, and they even put that on the return receipt. They put in blue and red Office of the Postmaster General of the PMG, because they know that we're the Postmaster Generals. And that's actually what we were sending them. So just one moment, because there's a little bit of background noise coming from somewhere here. Justice Akil, if you could keep your mic muted, because there's a little bit of noise coming from your background. Thank you. Okay.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, we did in the chat. We fell and bumped our head and forgot, but we're awake now. Yes. We're not doing anything that our ancestors did not do. So now we were going to clarify merchant and commerce. We want to just put some things in place here in terms of planting the seeds where merchants and commerce is concerned. Our ancestors were merchants since time immemorial. Okay. All that they wrote into law was to facilitate peaceful, prosperous, infinite merchant exchange and trade on the high seas, which is, the high seas is international waters and throughout the earth. Treaties are for international merchant exchange on the high seas or international waters. And international waters can be right down the street. Okay. Or it can be over in the UK, or, you know, though that's international waters, even though we are one with the Moors at UK. And constitutions are for commerce on the land and on the sea. The sea, when it says high seas is international waters. The sea itself is state waters as opposed to the high seas. Okay. And you can be on the seas, not lost at sea, but on the seas doing commerce, and then go out into the high seas and do commerce as merchants. That happens quite often. So merchants need commercial retailers because the commercial retailers are generally doing things where the Constitution is involved. Okay, they're talking to subjects on the land and getting things done that way, doing their commerce, you know, down at the retail store down the street, you know, on our land. And then the merchants are the ones who are in, we bring the commodities to the retailers, okay? And that's the difference between the merchants and the retailers, the ones doing commerce versus the merchants. And it's not versus, we work together. So the high-level mechanics of our merchant cards are outlined in the Treaty for Peace and Friendship, 1786 and 1836, as a peace document. Merchant ships are the opposite of warships, which is why we did update the treaty to state our peace on January 8, 1441, which was 2021 on the Greco-Roman or civil calendar. Moorish merchants exchanged natural resource commodities, generally, in their natural state, such as oil, gold, silver, sea minerals, natural resources, etc. Commerce is the retail byproduct of commodities. It is the things that you make from the commodities in smaller quantities to bring to the markets, retail shops, and plants. So our merchant cards are going to be used to make those exchanges happen. Okay, so those doing retail commerce, they get a merchant card, and then the merchants that are bringing the things get a merchant card, and we balance ledgers. Okay. When we talk about commodities, we're talking about things like this is natural sea salt that I actually harvest from the sea here. Okay, that's a commodity. It's in its natural state, okay? And because it is in its natural state, it can be used to make an endless number of medical products and beauty products and health products. And actually the health products, the healing is most important with regards to the sea salt, the salty sea minerals. Okay, and we'll be talking about that more in the future as we implement this the merchant card and merchant exchange on the land, sovereign merchant exchange. Yes, it will heal you. It will heal you. I'm a living witness to the salty sea minerals being healing. Okay, and we'll talk about that some more. But this is again an example of a commodity that can be broken down by the retailers and put into products, goods and services, you know, for whatever is needed. We would just bring the bulk of the sea salt or whatever commodity. It can be gold and silver. It can be, you know, whatever commodity the merchants are bringing. So Moors, as we're looking now at the resources that are on our land that are waiting for us, okay, we're preparing now to begin tribution of that earthwide. Okay, and that cannot be done by using poor people's principles. So I've had to reprogram myself, and that's an ongoing process so that we stay at the sovereign, high-level government, state level, nation level, universal level, international level, with regard to merchant actions and activities as we introduce this card. Okay. And our sovereign banking. Islam.
I finished up the state's constitution, New York, today, and I noticed also it talks about the canals, which is our trade routes. It talked about the Black River, it talked about the Erie Canal, and it talked about the other one, I can't remember. And then it also talked about salt, the sea salt, and it talked about that in the state's constitution. And I had to call up a few brothers and talk about that part, because who domicile rather in this territory of Northwest Amexem, and help them understand rather that to reinstate the Constitution back to the Moorish perspective and making note that they are the subjects and that we are the true estate, and how much authority we did not really understand that we have just by comprehending that state's constitution, because it talks about all of that you're talking about as far as trade, commerce, and how much we really are truly governing and supposed to be governing, rather, now that we are of the knowledge of understanding, we will be governing all of these things. And I'm just like, wow, dear God, like, it's so much in the Constitution, it's not even funny. But I was telling this one brother about the reasons why you, like, do what you do as far as making sure every single thing is challenged precept by precept and bringing it back into the light of the truth, because it's just like a computer programmer and the code that they've written as far as security. And if a hacker hacks it, then they have to, the person who programmed it initially has to go back and see how the hack was taken into effect, and then block that block, make that block as far as a hacker, and then understand the code, and then rewrite the code so it cannot be hacked again. And I said, this is exactly why Light is doing what she is doing on every single level, because we've been hacked, y'all. We've been hacked, and the only way that you can stop them from rehacking you is to go precept by precept, line by line, color by color, and make sure it's all air-gapped, and they cannot come back and infiltrate again.
Yes. Absolutely, Empress. Absolutely. Yes. That is absolutely exactly why we're doing what we're doing, so that we never end up in a situation where someone else is using capitalism to take control of things or make it look like they're taking control of things, and we don't know what's happening. And we keep talking about the Constitution, and they're just moving forward with violating. We're not realizing that we're using their instruments and speaking, you know, trying to control their instruments when they have control of their dead instruments, and we have control of the living instruments that we needed to actually put on the.
I'm sorry,
we have to do that.
That I was
go ahead,
that question about the brackets on the Constitution, because I was taking my time to do the edits, right? I didn't just go through the whole thing. I took my time, right? So I got to the end, and it says footnotes, and it says the section heading appearing in the above text in brackets are not the original, but have been delivered mainly from Lincoln. It says that in it's a footnote. And
they're telling you that they copied that from us.
Exactly, exactamundo. And so from that note right there, that footnote, that is the straw that broke the camel's back and say, aha, This is why we have to redo our own constitution, because it says it, right? They took ours and they apothecated it. They put the brackets, they put the negative signs in our constitution, and all we have to do is bring it back into the living, remove that which is dead, let the dead bury the dead, and be amongst the living.
That's it. Empress, you got it. You got it. And you know what? How many of us would have thought to even look at a state constitution and then take it and put it in its rightful place? Okay? We needed to do that. And at the end of this, I'll show you just really quickly a real quick symbol that says we needed to do that. So since we're there, those who have, there's almost like, there's 40-something people on this call right now that we can see, because we know it's way more than that listening in. But more in the different territories, there's got to be at least 20 or 30 territories, if not more, on the call. Please look up the corporate state of whatever constitution, pull that constitution, put it in blue, put it on Moorish government letterhead, edit it like she's talking about, edit it so that you take out all the feudal and dead corporate things. Okay, because we've already leaned the United States Corporation Company and all of that corporate fraud. But we can't just lean them and not put anything in its place. Okay, we have to put our own sovereign laws in place. And so we need those constitutions in. We need them in. We need them. And put them on the public record, and then send us a copy of the Constitution at thegovernment@gmail.com. And it's THE, government has an E on the end, @gmail.com. Islam.
I sent you mine today, Islam, for New York.
Thank you. Thank you. We got Toronto territories today. We got the one that you sent today, and we got a couple of others. So we're up to about probably 16 or 17, if not more, state territory constitutions, and more coming in. Okay, so I'll tell you why that's important in just a moment too, as we continue to go through this presentment. So I looked up the word merchant because, again, this is why we're putting yes, Islam Empress.
I was wondering, as I go through the state constitution, there is a 1849 and a 1879 constitution for California territory. So am I recording the 1849 constitution, or both constitutions?
Just one, the oldest one. We go back as far as we can go back, and we take that one, and you're not recording that one. You're going to create a new one and record the one you create.
Okay, right, correct. Okay, another question. Yeah. They use the word. They use the word Indian. Are we going to keep those words in the Constitution?
Empress, I'm so glad you know that that's not who we are. Listen, Empress. You can leave it in there simply because that's not talking about us. We were actually making room for them. The people from India, the Hindustan people, to come here and do some things. Okay. So you can leave that in there because, again, we're governing from the top down here with these constitutions. We're speaking to those that are on our land. Yeah. So it can stay there. That word can stay there.
Because the Simpsons, when I'm reading, it doesn't seem like it pertains to the Moors. It seems like it's pertaining to citizens. Even
it doesn't pertain. All constitutions have to do with the citizens too. Those are the things we enforce with regard to the citizens to keep order.
All right.
And then treaties are for
Islam,
yes, Islam. Ooh, I am so glad to hear that we are studying these constitutions and noticing that it's all about the Moors when it comes to who should be governing. Okay, no one should be governing natural resources on the land but the Moors, because they belong to us. Islam.
I have a question about the same constitution. There has like dates of like when people take office. I initially put, the council, the group of councils will decide.
Yes. Yes. Islam. Perfect. You can put that. Because what we want to do, our goal right now is to just get them on the public record as coming from us.
Okay.
On our letterhead, in blue, coming from the Moors, and us looking at them and just fine-tuning them. Because, again, they were taken word for word almost directly from our ancient ancestors.
And I was looking at the length, too. It's like 19 pages.
That's a short one. Yes. The one from Alabama is 540-something pages. And he got it. He actually got that turned in. He got it on the record.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a short one. The one here is 95 pages. The one from the UK that Justice Morley is looking at, it's actually 20 separate documents. 20 separate documents. The Constitution from the UK. So, but he turned in the summary. He put the summary on the record, so we're good. We just need to get them on the record saying that the Moors are governing these territories. That's really what we're doing. We're saying there are Moors in these territories who are alive and well and governing. Islam.
Now, what about soldiers? Because it has language in there about soldiers as well.
So when it's talking about soldiers in almost every one of those, it's usually talking about quartering. Is that what it was talking about, quartering them, housing them?
Yeah, some of it is. Yeah, quartering any house without consent. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not quartering any soldiers. We're not harboring anyone who's warring. So, yeah, so we're not. So anything that has to do with soldiers, we just say we're at peace.
Okay.
Islam, we're at peace. Yes, Islam.
I yield.
Okay. Islam. I want to get through this presentment here as well with regard to the cards. I don't want to go too far off. But go ahead, Empress. Go ahead. And I can hear you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention to see if while you're working with the finances, with the letter of credit for like international trade and stuff be included in those documents.
Letter for credit?
Letter of credit. It's a document that deals with international trade, like when you're getting products, the financial institution usually would write a letter that the product would be guaranteed to be paid for once it arrives.
Okay, I know what you're talking about, and actually, again, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Those letters are letters that will be coming to us because we're the creditor. So we're going to be sending all of our documents before any exchanges take place that's going to prepay for anything that we get.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, I got you. Thank you. Islam.
So, but that's a great question. We are actually going to be issuing letters of credit. Okay. And as I was doing my research for this, I saw where that is actually the way we were supposed to be doing things. We were supposed to be issuing the credit, the letters of credit to those who need the credit, you know, because we're the creditors, okay? So now, let's see, let's go to, because we want to get to the cards and the numbering system of it. We've laid the foundation for how we get to do what we're doing and why, and these are things that you can, put in your documents as well. We're going to put a document together, of course. It's going to be the template for merchant commerce on the land. There's a little bit of noise coming from one of the lines. I believe it's Empress Aisha. Do you mind if I mute you? Because there's a little bit of feedback, just a little bit of feedback. Thank you, Empress. And you can always unmute, you know how to, yeah, you know how to unmute, Empress. This is home. So let's take a look at just a little bit with regard to merchant and what that means and how it is to be used. Okay. The most important part of this for me, and you have it there on the screen, you can look at it and give it some study and look it up in Black's Law. Merchant, it's from the Latin mercans, okay, or mercari. Merchandise wares to trade. Now, here, it means a supercargo, and that's what we were saying about the merchants. Merchants don't have you know, to see $100 million exchange is not a big deal for a merchant. If you look here on the screen, the definition at number 4, which they say is an obsolete definition, it was obsolete because the Moors weren't using it, and it doesn't apply to anyone who's not the Moors. A supercargo. Supercargo is where we have $100 million shipment coming in today, 3 tomorrow, and 4 the next day of sea salt that's coming in so that all of the retailers can put things together to help heal the Moors. The hospitals can put it together because, you know, IVs and things were done using sea salt before because that rejuvenated us, and I totally see why it actually heals us, okay, because it makes our bodies alkaline, et cetera, et cetera. And then here, this was the most important part of this definition for me, where it says merchantman. It says a ship used in the transportation of goods as distinguished from a ship of war. See, the treaty was changed to a war document because the Moors started warring. How did we start warring? We started letting someone else be the fiduciary of our vast estate. We stopped doing merchant things and just started focusing. We got distracted and started focusing on fighting over commodities. We fell asleep. We started amalgamating commercially amalgamating. In other words, we said, oh, you're using fiat. Well, we'll just use the fiat. We know the Constitution says gold back, but the fiat is convenient. So we'll just use that. No. That's how we ended up, you know, and it's not an end, it's actually, we're done with that, but it's, you know, so merchant ships are not ships of war. Okay, so you can be a merchant with a merchant card and notify everyone in the territory that you're a merchant. A merchant. That means it's not a ship of war. So there's no need to be pulling folks over. Okay, and again, it's different from the commerce that was under the United States Corporation Company. If you were doing commerce under the United States Corporation Company, Islam nobility in the chat. If you were doing commerce under the United States Corporation Company, then they were doing the dead United States Corporation Company, let me distinguish. Then they were doing, it's unlocked mobility, then they were warring. They would just war. Just war. And we don't have to do that, okay? We are the fiduciaries of our own vast estate. So let's just keep that in mind, again, that it's a ship used in the transportation of goods as distinguished from a ship of war, okay? And then commerce, we can look at the definition of commerce. Okay, I believe she made it back in. Okay. And once we explain this, then we'll go into the numbering system for the cards, okay? But we have to lay the groundwork so that we know exactly what we're talking about here so that there's no confusion. I'm not sure I understand the question in the chat. How can we access the heading the same as here? I'm not sure which heading you're referring to. Commerce, the exchange of goods, productions, or property of any kind. Now, when we look at this definition right here where it says property of any kind, when you go into a fake corporate court, your property, or you're claiming to be property. You're not property, but you're claiming to be. That's different. That is completely different from what we're doing. Okay. Intercourse by way of trade and traffic between different peoples or states and the citizens or inhabitants thereof, including not only the purchase, sale, and exchange of commodities, but also the instrumentalities and agencies. That's the private commercial paper. That's the instrumentality, okay? So, the commerce in this definition is war commerce. It's not peaceful commerce, okay? There is a difference between war commerce and peaceful commerce. The difference being is when we're the fiduciaries of our own instrumentalities, such as the all caps and all of that, the all caps ins ligas or mens ligas, either one, then we're not warring with anyone for the use of an instrument that does not belong to us. Okay, so then they will not war back. Okay, so we are not at war. And this is important. Please note the following definition, which is not what we are doing, okay? And this right here is the reason why we say that the termination of corporate contracts and all that has to be on the public record before you issue a merchant card, okay? Commercial belli is war contracts, contracts between nations at war or their subjects. Agreements entered into by belligerents. That's any contract that is signed that is issued by the United States Corporation Company, such as their form and their application, either in time of peace to take effect in the event of war or during the war itself, by which arrangement is made for non-hostile intercourse. There's no such thing as non-hostile intercourse when you're talking about a dead corporation. We don't intercourse with the dead, okay? That's necromancy. And that's why we had to do what we're doing. Look here, it says they may take the form of, now non-hostile intercourse may take the form of armistices, truces, capitulations. That's capitalism. That's you agreeing to let them be the fiduciary of your capitalism. It's still a war contract. Cartel, passport is a war contract. Safe conduct, safeguards. This word safe conduct has a minus sign here. That means it's not safe. Okay. And then it says here, contracts between citizens of one belligerent and those of another, or between citizens of one belligerent and the other belligerent. They may take the form of ransom bills, that's bonds, bills of exchange drawn by prisoners of war, or receipts for requisition, okay? And we've talked about capitalism. Capitulation is allowing someone else to be the fiduciary of your vast estate because you do not want to be intelligent enough to do it yourself. We can do this ourselves. In fact, we're already doing it.
Islam.
Okay. Yes, Islam.
Because I remember reading in the state's constitution of New York, and it had mentioned one of the tasks that has to be elected, which was a coroner. And you had did the instrument some time ago, but I don't remember seeing the template for that particular one to go on the public record, because we're talking about coming into the living and terminating all corporate contracts. And the one that is in my head, right, in my soul right now, is the one that needs to be for the coroner and to put them on notice that we're not dead and we're actually in the living. So if you get a moment, can you post that one in somewhere so we can get that and put on the public record, please?
Well, what we did was we just sent an email with the termination of all corporate contracts to the coroner, the one that was doing business as U.S. coroner at D.C.
Oh.
Because he's lean. Did you know there was one that was over all of the citizens?
No, I didn't.
Yes,
okay. And
it's a military position.
Wow. Okay.
Or it was a military position. It's not anymore. So the termination of corporate contracts will do that, and if you want to just add them to your termination of corporate contract, that'll take care of it. That's the beauty of the documents that we've already put on the public record is they just require a little bit of, tweaking here, a little bit. You can add things to it or do one or two additional affidavits and add it to what you already have, and you're good.
And then we just, for our local coroners in our territory, we can just send them a copy as well for the county and things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Now, again, we always have to put something in its place. We can't just get rid of him and not have a way to deal with the things that he dealt with. Okay? And we can terminate corporate contracts with him and then put something in place for that over time. We just need to be moving in that direction. Okay? And we'll talk about that some more in upcoming meetings. Okay. So, Islam. Now, we talked about the issuer of the card. Okay? Because now that we've terminated all corporate contracts and put our own banking system on the public record, we have an issuer identification number. Okay. This number also serves as our overarching universal payment identification code, which is the UPIC. You can Google these terms and look at what they mean. This number is found on our Internal Revenue Service affidavit with creditor code dated January 31st, 1441, which is 2021. You all have seen this document that we sent to inform and notify all of the subjects and the custodians at the Internal Revenue Service at our office there. And at DC, our office there, that we already know that we're the original Internal Revenue Service. And we're the original everything. And we sent a copy and posted it on the public record of the creditor code. So for all accounts that have to do with us, including our merchant cards, those are creditor accounts. The coding is already done. And so with those creditor cards, when you start doing your research on the Universal Payment Identification Code, that's the overarching 99999 number. That's going to come into play with what we're talking about just below with regard to the way our cards are set up. Okay, and we'll go into that next. So the Universal Payment Identification Code is overarching, and it actually provides protection for the account so that no debits can come out of the account. So then you'll say, well, how do we do the exchanges? You do the exchanges using that number, but using affidavits, and the ledgers will do the pulling. That way nothing can come out without your autograph on it. And you can even do an overarching purchase order that says, or purchase command that says they can pull out a certain amount each month, or you're sending a certain amount each month. And again, this is merchant, and we can do our individual finances this way too. This merchant template is something that we do, and when we say template, in other words, the way that this process is laid out is something that we do in our own finances anyway. We issue everything, we speak by affidavit, we don't fill out their forms, and we have an overarching account that we do things from. We've heard some people, and I want to mention this briefly, we've heard some people mention a FIN number, a financial identification number that says that they are a financial institution. The issuer identification number is overarching even above that. In other words, you can be a financial institution because we all are. A FIN number is a bank account number. That's all it is. It's not anything other than a bank account number. It looks and acts just like a bank account number. The issuer identification number is the same thing also, except that we'll show you in the numbering system of our card that we're going into right now where the issuer identification number comes in at. I want to show you really quickly, and I'll just put it on the screen just here for a moment, the Internal Revenue Service affidavit that we put on the public record. Let's see. That we put on the public record back a while back. The ancestors were already preparing us for what we're doing now, because what we wanted to do then was make it so that all moorishe accounts are creditor accounts and not debtor accounts. So here on the screen, is the affidavit with the creditor codes on it that we sent to the Internal Revenue Service, or actually the Office of the Internal Revenue Service, because we are the Internal Revenue Service for our nation and our state and ourselves. Done by court action. It has, and it states we are the divine sovereign Internal Revenue Service. We're the Federal Reserve. We're the Treasury. Our Treasury is backed by gold, silver, precious metals, land, and rare earth minerals. We're the divine International Monetary Fund. We're the divine bank for international settlements. We're also the divine natural original indigenous United Nations, because we are. There's a trust that comes with that that we needed to reveal, okay? Because whether we know it or not, it's in the ancient records that the nations are our inheritance. So we have to make way and make room to inherit the nations and to make sure that they have the best of everything. This is the 999 issuer number. Okay, it says here, whereas the sovereign security number for the de jure sovereign universal original indigenous natural divine moorishe national republic federal government shall be 99999 999999. Okay, we are the creditors to all nations at earth. And then we went on to say a few other things about that. We have here Internal Revenue Service in blue. We have the AA222141A1 truth, which means that it is not taxed. We have also here creditor codes. We went through the Internal Revenue Service manual and pulled out the creditor codes and put them in the proper status, and made sure that we lean the Internal Revenue Service, that the corporation that was doing business as. And then the master file creditor code, 6209, Section 8A, for those who want to read the Internal Revenue Service manual and see what these codes mean. These are creditor codes. All of these are credit codes. So our cards are creditor code cards, okay? And this document was done a long time ago. But we got it stamped again by the inferior witnesses, the constitutionally inferior witnesses, just this past year. Okay. So that also lays further groundwork on what our cards are made of, the construction of the cards. Okay. There's a question in chat about an IDN, and I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I believe it was IBN. I saw it after your name in one of the sample documents.
In this one?
I'm not sure.
IBN. Oh, it was ICBN.
Yeah,
that's ICBN. ICBN is in capitis diminutio nolo.
Oh, okay.
Because you know how some people put ARR, all rights reserved, or ARE, all rights exercised. I just put in capitis diminutio nolo.
Oh, okay.
ICBN. And it just so happens to say ICBN. So,
okay, yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the numbering system for our cards. So let's go back here. And I know we're well into, just one moment. Okay. So also this Internal Revenue Service card document, we did a video on it when we first introduced it, so that the Moors could do the study on the coding and all of that for this document. So I'll put the link to that video in the chat here as well. Okay, so the merchant bank card numbering system. This card right here that I did, this was the first card that I did. It is, the numbering system on it initially was my sovereign security number plus the number of the card that was issued, which is number 1. This was the first card that I issued. Our cards are going to look similar to this, but the numbering system is going to, it fits the system that our ancestors put in place. It has 16 digits. Okay, so we have properly and competently connected our merchant court and our merchant cards, because the cards couldn't be issued unless a court issued them. So we've connected our merchant courts to our ancient financial system, which we researched and then crafted our system of affidavits to match the sovereign merchant system used by our ancestral banks as listed on the Moroccan American Exchange. So if you want to know which banks are included in the Moroccan American Exchange, the answer is all of them, because they all started with the, I don't know how many banks we have on there, but there are over 200 and something companies that we started. The Moors did way back in the day. So let's get to the numbering system of our bank cards. And my apologies for it taking a while to get here. However, it's important that we lay the groundwork in the law based on what, you know, so that what we're doing makes sense lawfully. We're not just making it up. It's the law. So bank card numbers consist of 16 digits, each digit serving a purpose for the sovereign merchant. The 16 digits is the primary account number for our cards as well. The primary account number for the card is divided up into 3 sections. The first 6 numbers, the next 9 numbers, and the last digit, okay? And this is with all cards. This is the way that all cards are set up. The first 6 numbers serve a purpose, the second 9 numbers, and the last digit serve a purpose. The first 6 numbers is the financial institution's issuer identification information. The next 9 numbers is the account identifier within the network of the financial institution that the account is in. So the first 6 documents says this card is issued by this bank, the moorishe bank, which is the Treasury, the United States Treasury. Okay, and when I say United States Treasury, we're the Treasury, not anything corporate or dead, nothing dead corporate. Okay, we are in control, and that's on our fiduciary documents as well. And yes, we are the bank. The next 9 numbers is the account identifier within the network of the financial institution that the account is in. So the next 9 numbers will say this account that's issued by the bank to the merchant, this account belongs to this merchant. Okay. And then the last digit is generally a security digit. And the way that the security is made up is so simple that it's just unbelievable, but I couldn't believe they went through all of that to do it. So here, the first digit of the card number of our merchant cards and of any card will tell you which industry the card belongs to, okay? So you can look on any cards that you have, and they're going to start with one of these numbers, and this is what those numbers mean. 1 and 2 is the airline. 3 is the travel and entertainment industry. 4 and 5 is banking. 6 is banking and merchants. 7 is petroleum or oil for us. 8 is healing care, medicine, and communication. 9 is national and government. And remember now, and the ancestors knew this was coming, that's why they said to make the universal account number all 9, because they knew that international and universal government was going to be in play in all that we do, okay? Our cards, even though it says banking and merchants here at 6, you can get a second card, merchant card, if you're doing merchant things with banks where you're maybe providing the paper for the money that's being printed or something like that, or whatever the instruments that the banks use. If you're, whatever the case may be, you can start yours with that. However, the cards that we issue initially are going to be national, international government cards that are attached to the universal account number based on the document that we sent, the creditor code. So all we're doing with the first card is stating for the record that we're the creditors to everything. That's all we're saying with the first card. And that way people will get used to seeing them. We have to train them, okay? But it's okay. They're ready for that because the other financial system is finished. And it really kind of never was. And then 0, if it starts with a 0, that is the International Organization for Standardization. Now, we can't tell sovereigns what to do. We do want to standardize our cards, especially the initial issue. That's going to work in all of our favor, to have a standard way that they come out so that no matter who sees them, they're going to know, yep, that's one of the Empire State of Morocco cards. They have constitutions, several constitutions, all the constitutions on the public record. This is their land. We have to honor their cards. Honor all cards. Okay? And again, they're custodians of our resources. They can't not honor our cards. Okay? So now, the next 5 set of numbers will tell which network the card is recorded with and issued by. This is the issuer identification number. So after the first digit that tells you which industry or which merchant category your card is in, then the next 5 numbers will tell which network the card is recorded with and issued by. Again, this is the issuer identification number. The issuer coding was not generally made public until now. And with that knowledge and with our study, our issuer identification number is all 9. So it's very easy for us to remember and to put into effect. Okay. Let me paste about the issuer identification numbers. I'll put the link to that in the chat here. Okay. Now, that's these numbers. Those numbers in the past, you'll notice that, for example, if you had an American Express, those numbers would be a 34 or a 37. Okay. And they use the Loon algorithm, and we won't go into the algorithm, but it's very simple. It's a simple algorithm. Who else? Let's say Visa and MasterCard. MasterCard used 2221 through 2720. We've done the study on that. Visa used 4s, all 4s really, is what Visa used as those next set of numbers. Okay. The Canaan land Moors and UK Moors, these are the numbers where we did the study on the way that the cards were issued there, and it's pretty much the same. Visa had the 4s, and HSBC had the 5s, and BMO had the 5s. But all the other banks use Visa debit digits, and yours are 16 digits as well. Okay, so for the UK Moors and the Canaan land Moors, yours is going to be the same as ours. It's going to be the same. So we are illustrating this so that all Moors will understand your bank card numbering system as international and universal merchants, commercial retailers, and sovereign heirs. So I'll give you an example of what the number will look like. You will know your number today, okay? So your numbering system will be as follows for merchants. For an example, if you have a 9-digit merchant number or a sovereign security number, for those who have converted EINs back to creditor status the way they should have been in the first place, any 9-digit number, including, whatever number you use in order to express your commerce or your merchant action, court action, can be entered in as your card number. So you take those 9 numbers, and we'll just use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as that number. Let's just say this is my sovereign security number. Then the universal government merchant bank card number will be 99999 912345678 and then the last digit, which is the security digit, will be 9. Okay. So my sovereign security number would be these last numbers right here, and the rest of the numbers will be 9. Okay. And even according to the international and universal purposes for this last security digit, when the first digits are 9, this last digit is gonna do what it's supposed to do where security is concerned. They use something similar to a Fibonacci sequence where they, it's some simple math where they just take the numbers, they add them up, every number over 10, they put those together. The same way we do more science, where if a number is 15, we add the 5 and the 1, and it's a 6. and they put those numbers together, and then they subtract that number, they add them all together, and then whatever number is left, let's say if it's a 27, that will be the number 9. They'll subtract that from 10, and it should be that number, the security number. But that's not anything that we necessarily need to be concerned with unless you want to get into the down the rabbit hole on the card. But you can, and that's why I'm telling you this, because for those who want to go down there, go ahead. So the security features and everything will fit what our system, our ancient system, has in place. Okay. At this time, again, we're providing this information for those who are merchants, entrepreneurs, states, nations, governments, and retailers, as you are the backbone of our national economic power base. We can provide for our heirs far better when we focus our collective energies on demonstrating our ability to use the natural resources that we have sovereign authority over to create jobs, feed the nation, and uplift all 7 mountains of influence on our land. All 7 mountains of influence are drastically improved through merchant and commercial resourcefulness. So with these merchant cards that we're going to be over time issuing, and you as merchants, you actually have the authority and the documentation to issue your own merchant cards. Okay? Because again, we all have a vast estate that we're governing. You don't necessarily have to get a merchant card from us. You can issue your own just like you issue your own ID card. Just know the dynamics of what you're doing, and that's the purpose of this sharing session here. It's to show you the dynamics of the card so that you're able to explain what you're issuing and the law that it's based on, and that you have the authority, and that all must honor the cards that you issue. Okay? The natural resources in the territories are the collective responsibility of all proclaimed Moors in the territory. Does your territory have its territorial constitution on the public record? We intend to visit each territory that we receive a constitution from. So far, we've received constitutions from these that you see on the screen, to include the ones that were mentioned earlier that the heirs have sent in as of today. Virginia Territory Constitution, Delaware Territory, Washington Territory, Nevada Territory, Minnesota, Maryland, Alabama, Michigan, United Kingdom Luton Constitution. Right now we're at about, I would say probably about 16 or 17 constitutions from the different territories, with more coming in. I'm corresponding with more, asking, is this right? Or, you know, they should just be in blue, and then just go through them. Make sure that you're familiar with them. You don't have to memorize them, just be familiar with them, because we're going to go back and look at them over time, okay? If you are doing constitutions, because again, the ability to use your merchant card has a lot to do with the Constitution. It actually has a great deal to do with the Constitution. Simply because, as the Empress was saying, and what we said at the beginning of this sharing session, the constitutions are the commercial documents for the territory. So you can do commerce according to those, and we're not under them, and we're not subject to anyone. We are actually implementing the constitutional commerce and merchant actions in the territory. That's why each more putting those constitutions on the public record is going to be so important, because those constitutions are going to back and support what you're doing. Not that you need it, but you do kind of, it's in order. And as we're doing things, we don't need to be, you know, we don't need to have issues just because we didn't take the time to do this. Let's just take the time to put the constitutions on the public record, along with our merchant cards that say we are doing sovereign lawful commerce in this territory, and here's some support for that. And all are held to it. And those constitutions, be sure, heirs, that you get them when we start moving forward some more, even more so with the merchant cards. We got to start issuing merchant cards, okay? You see the numbers and how to issue them. You can make your card look the way you want to make it look. You see what mine looks like. I do have to put the 16 digits on there. And then I'm going to go about doing merchant things with more sovereign dolarium and with the merchant cards and all of that in the territory. The county charters, also, if you would look at the county, the county of whatever corporation was claiming business there, and do the same thing with the county charter. Put the county charter on the public record on Morse government letterhead in blue ink. Go through it, make sure you know it, pull out anything corporate, such as county of this and county of that. It's not county of anything, it's just the name of the place. So when I did the charter for King territory, because this is King territory, the county of King is a corporation. So I took county of out and just said King. Or I said King County and I spell county differently. Okay. Seek ye first the empire, and all of these things will be added unto you. It is so important as we begin to issue these cards, because again, all Moors have access to everything that we have access to. You have access to those documents that we sent off to the office to the custodians in the Office of the Internal Revenue Service. You have access to those documents. They'll be under this video on YouTube at Like the Jerry Bay channel. So you have the authority to do anything that we're doing. And these things must be done because little by little, and some of you can see it happening already, the subjects are going to have to go because we have to govern this, we have to govern this estate. Okay. Are there any questions about the card? Because again, this is not an overnight process, but we have to get started. We have to get started on this. So you have the dynamics, you have the background information on where the numbers come from, what they mean. You can do the study on that. We're going to start issuing, I'll issue a card to myself and then put it on the public record so you can see how it looks and what we're going to be demonstrating. Because by then, guess what? Our sovereign security number or any EINs, and when we say EINs, we don't mean a corporate EIN under the dead United States Corporation Company. We're talking, if you had an EIN under them, take that number, pull no dashes in it, take the dashes out, put it in red, put EIN in red, and then put it in blue in capital in all capital letters. You can put EIN in all capital letters if you want to be an employee. Okay, because ain't nothing wrong with being having an employee identification number. So that's what an EIN is. That means you want to do commerce, with a trust. Under, employee status. Okay, not under employee status, but in alignment with employee status, because we're not under anything. For us, we're doing universal payment identification card numbers. This is universal merchant actions that we're doing. But again, they can be these are the actions can be put in place by any Moors, all Moors, okay? Because we're preparing to do to get the resources on the land and start giving commands with regard to how those resources are used. Okay, Are there any questions or comments of any kind, any wisdom, anything we missed about the cards and what they're going to look like and what they're for? This whole process is in the favor and in the interest of our state. Okay? It's for the furtherance and the growth and the longevity of the empire of our vast estate. That's what merchant cards are all about. Once we get the merchant piece going on a scale, and it only takes one or two of us to get it going. Once we get it going, we can start employing other Moors and making sure that the estate for our heirs is secured commercially. Islam nobility.
And sis, so I just had a quick question. I was wondering, so if the cards kind of, mimic the current, merchant card, would there be like a routing number on the back of it? Kind of like how the system is set up now.
If you want to have a routing number on there, you can. Okay. The card once. So let's say I went to a merchant and I wanted to use my card. It has a card number on it, and what they would do is on the back of the card you can either have a routing number or you can have the link to your trust account where they can go on the back of the card, pull up this link on the internet and go straight to the Google Sheets page that has the amount that's in your account. Okay, that is how they were doing it previously. And again, we're the bank, so we're the ones who know how much is in our account. They're going to have to get that from us. At the appointed time, just one moment. Let me pull something up here. I want to show you something here. Let's see. So one moment. So to your question, nobility, they will have to, and they have the ability to do it, pull up any account. They can pull them up on the internet, or they can pull them up on their phone, or their, whatever they have there, and look at it and see how much is in the account. Okay, and at some point, the system, if you look on the screen, for example, and I've shown you all, I've signed on to this account where we've notified the subjects that are in the office of the CEO about us. And so it says here, this is what they're saying. Merchant details for pending debit card transactions is not displayed. This information will be updated as soon as possible. We apologize for any inconvenience. So the documents that I gave them changed the account to a merchant account because I gave them 100 million in more sovereign dolarium, and I gave them, and again, they're custodians. They don't really get to say what kind of account it is. I get to say what kind of account it is. And so at some point, the things that we do when we are doing our merchant exchange will be reflected here. Okay, do you see that on the screen?
You mean currently do not have any income? Not that. Which part?
It says here, right here at the top, merchant details for. This is not it hasn't been fully converted over to merchant on their part. In other words, I don't have any debit transactions to display. Merchant details for pending debit card transactions is not displayed. This was not there a few weeks ago. Okay, but because of the documentation that I gave them and the amounts that I gave them, they know that we're doing merchant transactions or exchanges, rather. Okay, merchant details for pending debit card transactions is not displayed. At some point it will be. Okay, so as we're doing merchant things, they'll be able to either go to Google Sheets and look at how much is on the ledger, or they can pick up the phone and call and find out how much is on the ledger, because that's how all of this is done. This is how sovereign banking is done. Sovereign banking is not really done where you just swipe a card and everything is done yet. It's not done that way yet. Right now, what we're doing is they're going to be picking up the phone calling, or they're going to be logging on to the internet and finding out, you know, what's going on with the account. And again, we get to determine who they call and what they look at and all of that. You know, we get to determine that. Okay, we get to say how much is in the account because we put it there. Because see, people know that the other banking system, that corporate one, the dead one, that one is. So we had to put a system in place first to show that we understand banking. And once we show that we understand banking, then the banking system that we know that we put in place initially will get in subject status and do as commanded. Okay. So the account went from being an everyday single person account to a merchant account. But see, we're having to train them on what's going on with the account. We're having to train them because they have not dealt with affidavits in a long time. It's been a long time. And you cannot hijack an affidavit. That's why we speak by affidavit, because you can't hack it. You just have to do what it says, especially when we put the law in place first. So they're actually trying to figure out how to reflect it based on what we told them. And then I have to do some merchant exchanges so that, you know, I have to go out and, you know, do an exchange on some things. And then they're going to have to figure out how to do that, how to have the system reflect the way it should, because it's a merchant account now. So they're figuring it out as we give the command. And that's, you know, we just have to give competent commands, and we have done that. So on the back of the card, it's going to be either a route. It can be a routing number, because we talked about financial identification numbers. Again, that's just a bank. It's a routing number, a bank account number. That's what a financial identification number is. Okay. So you can put that on the back of the card if you want to put that on the back of your card. And at some point we will assist in putting merchant cards out there. The Moors will have to demonstrate the cards just like we have to demonstrate them. But again, we're used to demonstrating. And, you know, the system is responding the way it should to those who are peaceful and competent and, you know, motivated to do things in honor. The system is doing as it's supposed to. Are there any other questions with regard to that? But yes, routing numbers, bank account numbers can be on the back of the card. Okay. If you have banking in your mind as being done the way it was previously done when we had absolutely no control over anything, so to speak, when we thought we were citizens, it's a different. This is a different ball game. It's not a ball game. It's a different arena. It's a different arena. And so we have to get used to knowing what that arena looks like. And we're actually creating that arena right now by
Islam, Empress. Remaine. Can you hear me? Islam?
Islam, I believe she was kicked out.
Okay. I have questions, but not on the banking piece on the card, because I've been taking notes all week waiting on this class today, so I can ask you about the things I need to get taken care of, so I can get all of my presentations done, my document presentations. First of all,
so the six documents, those main first 6 documents need to be done.
Yes, that's what I'm in the process of doing. I have all of them done, all scanned to my computer, except for I didn't find the UCC1 lien affidavit for the Social Security number. I couldn't find that anywhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a lien of any kind?
Yeah, I have. Yes, I have them. I have a lot of them.
Okay, so you can use that as your guide.
Okay.
For the social, you can use that as your guide.
Okay.
And then I would encourage the Moorish merchants to put the fiduciary document on the public record. I would encourage you to put the currency controller document on the public record. That's going to be very important. The indemnifier, and all of these documents, again, will be under this video. And the sovereign president document and the sovereign postmaster general, because those are commerce or merchant commerce documents. And then we may, because of the merchant card, we may do a document, a merchant. It's just another document that will say the same thing that the rest of the documents say, that we're the sovereign merchants, that all Moors are sovereign merchants, universal, international, etc. merchants.
Okay, great.
And we are, you know, yes. And one other thing, the anything that is created by treaty is outside of corporate jurisdiction.
Correct.
So to speak. Okay. So again, that's why we mentioned the treaty at the beginning of this sharing session, and you know, because again, that's a jurisdictional statement to even mention the treaty. So our merchant cards are in our own ancient sovereign living jurisdiction. Okay.
Okay, good.
And that's why we have to issue the cards. And again, all institutions were issuing their own version of a Visa or a MasterCard the way they wanted to issue. That's in the manual, in the link that we looked at. So we can do the same.
Okay.
Islam.
Is there any place that you have the what am I looking for? I just lost my train of thought because somebody's in the background talking.
Use your Maxim Express card. Don't leave prison without it.
Oh, idiot. But anyway.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I know. I'm just basically. Oh, did you have any luck on getting that for the putting the documents on the public record? You said you was gonna create a. Last week when we spoke, Thursday when we spoke, you was gonna get on creating a room to
that document. Yeah, the document.
Consulate anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Say again?
We're not using the Moorish American Consulate anymore. Shared by, remember we spoke Thursday night.
Who said that? I didn't say we weren't using the Moorish American Consulate. We are the consulate.
Yes, I know, but okay. This is Raymond Bale. We spoke after Thursday's class.
I remember.
You were going to get on getting another, or creating another one for Facebook that I can put all these documents on.
Oh, you're talking about the Moorish American Consulate Public Records page.
Yes. Public records. Yes.
So any Moor can create a Moorish American Consulate Public Records page. Okay. And I went out to try and create one, and for some reason I couldn't create one. It didn't. I looked at it, and the things that it would let me create. And again, I probably just need to look at it a little closer, but I don't have time to look at it as close right now. Okay. So here's another way to publish your document, and this is the way I do most of my documents too. Do you have Gmail? You have Gmail, yeah. So put the document on your drive and post a link onto Facebook.
Okay.
Just as Raymond.
Put all of my documents on my drive, which they are, and just post a link to it.
Post a link to it on Facebook, and it will actually show the actual document on Facebook.
Beautiful. Now that's very simple. Thank you.
Yeah. Islam.
Islam.
Yeah, I did go out there and try to create one after we talked, and they changed some things, so I was like, okay, let me stop for a minute and I'll have to come back to that. But as it turns out, it's not necessary to create another one. But any Moors can create a Moorish American Consulate Public Records page on Facebook where Moors can upload their documents. Islam English.
Yes.
Thank you, Justice Raymond.
Thank you. I have questions along the same lines. So I did change my name. That explains why I didn't get a response about when I sent the email to be able to post my current documents on the record on the website. But my question is, when I submit the Magic Six, do I include the Constitution and the Zodiac Constitution and the Treaties of Peace and Freedom with all the demonstrations? Do they get all that documentation as well, including my name change document?
Are you led to give them that based on what you want to notify them of?
Okay.
Because, see, what you send depends on the demonstration that you're doing.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're led to give them those, then go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do it. The 6, though, should definitely be there because those 6 state that we are in control of our own capitalism, which we needed to do and not have our capitalism be stateless.
Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Islam. Thank you.
What? Islam. Some of the documents that we were dealing with, I know you got from public record and stuff, the different ways to script, link it, the different ways that's used. I normally put my pencil script. I'm asking is doing some of the documents, especially this concentrated for Toronto at this point in time, is When I change it, you know, if you change Canada and stuff, I use a different name instead of using Canada and certain stuff. Or you just want a basic or full 100. You want full 100 of the document, or yes, a byline of the document. You want everything changed, or you preferably change it more better change the name of Canada and put Kinlands or the Empire of Morocco in the document instead of using back certain things. Just take it with jurisdiction.
What territory is the document from?
Kinlands.
Okay, so then you would leave Trinidad in there. You just wouldn't say country of Trinidad or county of Trinidad or state of Trinidad, or you know, you wouldn't say state of or county of or city of in any of the documents. You would just say Trinidad because that's actually the state.
Yeah, right, okay. I got that. I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure it was right, because I don't really. Yeah, I just want to make sure it's right, you know. See if they work.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes, Islam. If you all will look on the screen, and we can actually start bringing the call to a close. But if you look on the screen can you see the emblem on the screen there? The emblem of the Treasury.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me explain just a little bit about this emblem and what it's really saying.
Coat of arms.
What it's really saying is that in order to actually either create or access a treasury, you first have to have your courts, because there has to be a balance of justice. The scales of justice must be balanced, and you can't begin to deal with commerce and funds and appropriations and things unless you have your courts in order. So the court, the scales of justice are at the top of this shield. And then there's this thing that looks like a rooftop or the top of a pyramid that has 13 stars on it, right? And in order to get to this key to the treasury, you have to have this thing with the 13 stars on it in order, and you have to have your courts over. The courts have to be reigning over these 13 stars here, this rooftop here with the 13 stars. Well, what is this? This is 13 constitutions placed on the public record by one government. And that's why the constitutions were so important with regard to our commerce. Because you can now literally access or create your own treasury and have it be honored in every other state when you have at least 13 territories that have come together and agreed to be one. That gives you the key to the treasury. That is what our ancestors were saying in 1789.
Islam?
Islam.
That's one of the reasons you get 13 weeks of severance pay, work 52 weeks a year, 26 weeks vacation pay. It's all about the same constitution that they did with all how they fix the treasury work. 13 weeks of 26 weeks of employment benefit, 13 weeks of severance, 52 weeks in a year to work. Then you get 13 weeks of pension or something like that, sick days, 13 sick days, unemployment, employment insurance, 13 weeks of employment insurance. So all that represents how the economic structure and employment work also. It's all about the treasury. And the 13 stars could also represent the 13 chakra component of the body.
Of course it could, yes. It could. It means a lot. It means a lot. It could, you know, some would say 13 colonies coming together, and all of a sudden they got a, you know, they got all this stuff going on our land. That's not the case with what we're doing. We needed 13 territories to come together and say, we will do this together. And we have that. We've exceeded that. We've exceeded that. So we just need to get as many constitutions on the public record as possible. And having said that, we are inviting all Moorish governments, no matter who the Moorish,
Oh, no, sorry. So 13 means 13 seats means we are government, we are state.
Yes, we are the state, we are the law, we are the government. Absolutely, because we have we've gotten good coverage, at more than adequate, in fact, superior coverage on our land with regard to where Moors are located and where they have chosen to govern. So with that being said, we are inviting all Moorish governments, no matter where you are. I'm so grateful for UK territory Moors sending the constitutions in, and the Moors from the other Trinidad and the other places that the constitution are coming in, because we needed to show some unity internationally. We needed to show some unity, and we're doing that. It needed to be where it wasn't just like Tajiri Bey doing anything by herself, which we never were, by the way. We've always been moving as a unit and as a state and nation together. From the very beginning, it's always been us and not me. It's us. It's about the we the people. And so we are inviting all Moorish governments, no matter who, which territories you're in. If you've already done a constitution, and this includes tribes, temples, whoever, whichever organization you present, whichever nation you present, whichever state, whichever tribe, if you have a constitution for your tribe, send it to us and put it with ours so that we can continue to collectivize and unify our power and our authority on the land. Okay? The more, the better. We have what we need in order to move forth now, because we've shown that competently. We want as many as possible to be with us. We never wanted to do anything by ourselves, and we haven't. And the ancestors have blessed the work that we've been doing. And so any Moorish governments who have constitutions, again, you wouldn't be under us because there's no such thing, okay? No Moors are under us. We're all moving together. Just please email your constitution to thegovernment@gmail.com. Government has an E on the end. It's THEGOVERNMENTE@gmail.com. Email your constitutions to us with your autograph, your sovereign autograph on it, so that we can put those together, because we're going to actually do a universal presentment on the public record, all of us together, by way of these constitutions, stating that the land is ours and that all resources on the land are ours, and that we govern them, and that our merchant cards are to be honored everywhere, because we are everywhere. And the resources belong to us. And as we continue to put the economy in the favor of the Moors and get it started back up again, it starts with us. Us going out and being able to access the natural resources en masse, as much as we need to access, in order to get the resources out to the nation, whether it be on the high seas, the sea, or the land, or the air. We need to be able to get whatever we need in order to get this economy going the way it should be, lawfully. And that is why we've done the things that we've done step by step, and we're going to keep moving just like we've been moving, where we put things on the public record because it says it right here in our national strategy. I will send terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive those pretending to be the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land will become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of your land. And again, we already have possession of it. We just need to increase and keep unifying and keep coming together. It says here, and this is where subjects are concerned, I will give into your hands the people who live on the land. We brought the subjects to the land. They have to do what they have to do, and then those who don't, we will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Don't contract with them. Their affidavits are not a contract, and that's why we speak by affidavit. An affidavit puts everyone in their proper place. It properly identifies the heir, and it properly identifies the custodians in the office of whatever it is, the grocery store, the treasury, wherever. And we have more than 13 that have come in and that are on the public record. So we just need to keep going. Get as many constitutions on the public record coming from the same government, and keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. And again, we invite all governments, all Moorish governments, all tribes, nations, organizations even. If you have a temple or an organization, send your charter or your constitution to this email address so that we can put all of our words and work and documents together and continue to inherit the vast estate. Seek ye first the empire, and all these things will be added unto you. That's what that means. This is us seeking the empire first. We're not trying to get one conveyance for light. We're trying to get empire for all. Islam, Empress. There was an Empress.
Islam.
Yes.
Yes. I have a little delay. Anyway, would it be inappropriate to, when I sign the Constitution, to have my son also sign the Constitution? He's not declared right now, but he will be. So would that be inappropriate to have him also sign it?
Is he a minor?
Islam.
Is he a minor?
No, he's an adult.
When I say minor, well, he's an adult. He would just need to make a statement.
No, he is.
Is he over? Huh?
He's going to declare his nationality. He's an adult. He's a full adult, and he's going to declare his nationality. I was just wondering. Go ahead. I yield.
Okay. Has he said, I'm going to declare my nationality? Has he said that?
Yes.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely.
Right now. He's
that means
on the last three. He's at the last three meetings.
Declared.
He's been sitting with us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yes, have him autograph it in red and all lowercase letters. Yes, yes. Because the law works by intention. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely
Right.
have him autograph it in the same way that you would with his right red thumbprint. Yes, absolutely. Because the law works by intention, and as we intend honorably, the ancestors will do it. He's really already declared. It just hasn't manifested on paper yet, but it is going to manifest on paper with his autograph. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Because we're going to do all of the stuff for him too. But it's just when I goes out, I want his signature on that. So anyway, thank you so much. Islam.
Yes. Yes, Islam, yes. Those who are saying, I'm going to declare, that means they know in their spirit that they really are a Moor already. They're already a Moor. They got the blood in them already. Okay, so our intention is the law. Everything that we do, the ancestors look at the intent of it, the intention of it. Is it to further the empire? Then yes, it will happen. Whether we do it or someone else does it, it's going to happen. So we might as well go ahead and be the vessels that we say, okay, we'll do it. Because it's really, our will is the same will as our ancestors' will. So, Islam. Are there any other questions or comments with regard to the card and the overarching why we're doing all that we're doing? Because I heard tonight on this call from you all that you get it, why we're doing what we're doing, why we're doing all of this. Because you don't know how many times we heard people say all of that is not necessary. Oh, yes, it is. If you've got the generations to come in mind, every bit of it is necessary and then some, and we all have to do it together.
Islam?
Islam nobility.
I agree with you 100% because at this time, if we really look at life, how we've been living for these couple of years up to this time, there was nothing done for us, our people. It was just all of that was done, that it was using us for economics and for their own personal gain to create their wealth and create debt, but never seems to cancel it out. But there's never us for banking, there's never money to lend us, there's nothing for us, not even a housing, not even, everything that our people need, we have to fight hard for it or try to accomplish it. And then when we do accomplish things, there are always some of us, our people, that always try to put a stain or ugly picture on things that we are doing, or some fiction or some fantasy they have in their minds, some secluded idiotic idea about everything you're doing, and try to give false documentations or false testimonials on what we are trying to build. We will always have that in this world. There's nothing that we can change because we are all being fed down, we are all being in a depressing mode 24/7. Now it's time for us to rise up into a living chapter of life where we can rise and lift our springs, help our ancestors to smile and look up on us and say eventually. It's always written there, and it's hidden. Now we have the eyes to see. Is the food and nourishment that we need. Yeah. We should take the nourishment and embrace it and use it, because it's time changing. In this time you see it get to even the COVID-19, they talk all kind of stuff. There's nothing for us until we take it. If you take everything from us, we have to do it in our way, the best way, the right way. So we give thanks. We all should give thanks for the information and to even be present in this time for the changes that occur, because we here are creating history, our story, not history, our story for our offsprings and for our ancestors that was written in our DNA. Ashe.
Yes.
Islam.
Ashe. Indeed, Ashe, indeed. Things were not going to change until we changed it. Things were not going to change until we changed it. Nope. And now we're doing it. We're being the change we want to see. And I know that's cliche, but it is actually the truth. We don't have a choice as far as I'm concerned, because we're not going another 50 or 100 years looking crazy over some fiat. That's not happening. Not happening. We make the change happen. And over the next 365 days, we will revisit and revisit and revisit until manifestation is 100 on the things that we've been saying. But we see it happening already. We see the changes happening already. I mean, you're talking about acknowledgement of our sovereign status. That's happening all over the place. Go ahead, Empress Shima L. You can star 6 so we can hear you if you have a question or comment or some wisdom. I see your hand went up, Empress Shima L. Okay. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay.
This is Empress. How you doing?
All is well, Empress.
Yes. It's been a while. My phone been down and all that good stuff. But all in all, I just want everyone to know that the United Nations has offered me a position to be in the humanitarian affairs, and I was wondering what can I do to make sure everything that I do with them as contract and all that good stuff for all of the nations.
Yes.
That was a tall order.
So,
it's ready to,
Empress, all we really want you to do for starters is just declare your nationality and give them the affidavit.
Yeah, that's what I've done. Already. Yeah.
Just you gave them nationality documents.
Not just yet. Not yet. They asked me to put anything in my archives, and all that good stuff. And so that's what I will do. I appreciate it. That's why I'm just trying to fit my head around what I can be a sovereign in somewhere that is all over the world where it can be penetrated to be us, we as one.
Yes.
Yes.
See, the United Nations already know, and we showed that at the beginning of this call before we even knew that you were here on the call, Empress, that they know who we are, and what a blessing. What a blessing that you're here, Empress.
Yes,
because it's an honor, because it's time, and there are no coincidences that you're here. No coincidences at all. And so, and I'm glad that you feel comfortable enough to speak up, Empress, and just put it out there, because
it's my time, but I had to come with something big for you guys, because that's what we are.
Yes, Empress, just so elated.
Yes.
Our thing, we just declare your nationality, who you really are, and and ensure that they know from the very beginning that you are not Negro, black, colored, and African American, because those do not exist, so that you can, demonstrate further with regard to all that, all that's going on there at the United Nations.
Before I did, I had to do a 7,000 word application, and I put everything in, and they accept me. So I'm really happy for this. Yeah.
Yes.
Everything is in tune, where I'll be a spokesman with the humanitarian affairs. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful, and no coincidence. They picked the right one, Empress.
Yes, they did. I'm happy. Passion. Yeah. Yes.
Excited for you. We're excited for you, because you are the nation's Empress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're with you 100. Yes. We're with you 100, and because you know that if there's anything that we can do, let us know.
Yes,
Islam.
peace and love. Yeah, peace and love is to all of us. Yes.
Yeah.
Islam.
Islam.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Empress.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? Very beautiful. And that's another reason why it's so important for us to make sure that we quote the law on the things we're doing. We just need to quote the law on it. That's it. Quote the law, because the law has been the law from day one. We just needed to make it our law. Make it the law for us. And when we make it the law for us, it becomes the law for everybody dealing with us. Okay. Okay. If there be no further wisdom, testaments, or anything of that nature, peace and grant. We will be back here actually on today's Sunday. We'll be back on Thursday. Peace and original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs.
Grand Rising to Moors. Grand Rising. I'm glad to be a part of this Grand Rising. You're very brave, boy. Get some brave. Peace and love. Peace and love. We're waiting. God, take us to the bank. Wake us up.
And yes, if you got your humanitarian packages ready, I can take them and make sure they all get spokesman and get everything out in the ethers to all the nations to get us things done.
Yes. Empress, let's connect, Empress. Let's connect so that we can just put some, just notify. That's all we need to do is just notify.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we can do a targeted notification. Empress, do you have my number, Empress?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Let's talk sometime soon, please, so that we'll just give a gentle notice. That's it.
No, that's all they ask for.
Islam.
Okay.
Yes, Islam. I'm happy for you, Empress.
Thank you, sister. You good, girl. Thank you very much.
Islam. There are no coincidences.
You coincidence. Islam. You coincidence, girl. I'm blessed. I'm glad to know you.
Islam. So we will just
get started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace and love. Islam.
Nice.
Well, 1950, y'all. Do your math. Yeah. I'm 71 for real.
I have some documents to send to you.